organisations like the Scientologists?
Well, I think at times like this, people need to really get their heads screwed on even tighter. I think that people would be more realistic because in order to do Scientology, it's going to, in order to say reach where Tom Cruise is, right? That's going to cost the average guy approximately €300,000, right? He's not going to make it for cheaper than that, yeah? So economically, it's going to be very difficult to, get that kind of money out of people, obviously, and that is a major concern of Scientology internationally, So again, I don't know what way it's going to, are people going to feel depressed? And
would John Travolta have rejected any diagnosis of autism for his son?
He would have rejected anything that was psychiatric in nature, because anything that says it's a problem within the brain or within the nervous system, or related to, neurological problems, all of this is completely thrown out by Scientology. Hubbard says the brain is just a shock absorber between the person and the spirit, who he is.
So this comes back to what Tom Cruise said about Brooke Shields when she suffered from postnatal depression.
Exactly.
He said it was I don't know what he said, but it was fairly pejorative about Brooke Shields and told her to get a life.
Exactly. And then again, I must make a point here that I really, really empathise with John Travolta. He is a human being, and he is feeling the loss. Of course, he's feeling the horrible, horrible death of his child. It's horrific, and I empathise with both of them. But the theology that the quote unquote theology they bought into is lying to them and is driving them, and drove them down a road that put their son in extreme danger.
Well, is medication allowed? Psychiatric?
No. Put it this way. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, this a few years ago, back in 1998, was in what's called the C organization with me, which is this militant core of Scientology. She had epilepsy. She joined with epilepsy, yeah? Mm-hmm. The immediate program she was put on took her off the medication straight away and began pumping her with their own concoction of vitamins, yeah? Within a couple of weeks, she was having grand mal seizures. She was having seizures. She broke her top teeth. She damaged her skull, broke her arm. This kind of thing was happening, and they would not put her back on the medicine prescribed by the psychiatrist, because that's completely antipathetic to what Scientology is about. Really, completely antipathetic. There's another couple of interesting cases which the listeners can look up. There's the case of Ellie Perkins. Her son, this is back in about 2003, 2004, her son was taken off his psychiatric medication, and he stabbed her to death. In Australia, last year, a Scientology girl was taken off her medication by her parents, who are both advanced Scientologists in Australia, and she stabbed both her parents to death. And then there's the horrible case of Lisa McPherson, which is that's just a nightmare. I don't even want to go into that one, but I've written about that in my book. But Scientology, the Jehovah's Witnesses would deny people a blood transfusion, no matter how desperately they need it in order to live. Yeah. So, and likewise, Scientology denies people any kind of psychiatric, psychological.
And how active are well? Maybe I'll ask Mike Garde. How active, Mike, are Scientologists in Ireland at the minute?
Well, they're quite active, and my most recent reports that I got from this person who was high up in Scientology was that in Tony Quinn's organisation, is that they seem to be cooperating together, all these organisations like the Unification Church, the Moonies, Scientology, but in terms of their activities at the moment, very, very reduced, because since January of last year, one of your former researchers there, Anne-Marie, is actually doing a program on a group called Anonymous, which is going to show how very important they have been to give rise to a protest movement. What's very interesting is that sometimes I go down on a Saturday. They meet every month, and they'll be out there on the 17th on Middle Abbey Street. They're protesting against Scientology. Not one of them has a family member involved, but the funny thing is that a lot of family members of people who have been out of the woodwork for years have got the strength and courage to come back and start protesting about their family. Like, I know a family that was on the Late Late Show with Gay Byrne in 1995. That family has not seen their brother for 7 years. He's totally disconnected, is the term they use. But I would say that the Scientology is trying to gain influence through Muslim communities here in Dublin. They're trying to front up. They did the same. John, in fact, when he was in Scientology, was in Birmingham, he was fronting up exactly that type of infiltrationist methodology. They're not so much. They've failed in the Irish public. They haven't been able to go anywhere. They've gone.
And when you were a Scientologist, John, did you try and infiltrate other organisations?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, very.
Who did you try and infiltrate?
Birmingham City Government, through various voluntary bodies, which are supported, a lot of them very much supported by the state as well, because kind of the statutory voluntary sector join up that they're doing in Birmingham. Very, very wonderful thing. But for me, when I was up there as a comment, I realized this is a fantastic opportunity to forward the Scientology goal, which is to clear the planet, if you like, to take over, which means taking over essentially politically and religiously across the world.
Okay. Since your book was published, The Complex, The Insider's Expose of the Covert World of the Church of Scientology, John, and you're living in Ireland now, obviously, and you're from Ireland. What has been the reaction to your book from Scientologists?
Well, just before the book was even available, the church representative in Ireland did say that everything in the book was lies, of course, and Scientology has stopped it being sold in the United Kingdom, but it's been there's huge demand from it across the world, in Australia, in America, in Ireland, in England, actually. People are buying it for people in England. That's how it's working there. In Germany, Austria, I was in Belgium, and I was in Italy recently, and I'm selling it there as well,
Okay.
So because people don't like Scientology. Scientology is all about selling something that people don't want until eventually, well, they don't know anything else eventually. That's kind of what happens.
Okay. Thanks indeed, Mike Garde, and thanks, John Duignan. I'm back after, by the way, that Tony Quinn seminar is on at the RDS on Sunday, but you have to be invited, apparently, with that letter that I just read out to you that was sent in to us, and we weren't invited, by the way, and the Scientology protest is on the 17th of the month in Abbey Street, opposite the side door of Arnott's there, but that's a separate event. Okay, back after this break.